What does it mean to you to be a man?
What does it mean to me to be a man? It's a great question. It's something that I think over time has constantly changed, and I think it will change again in the next 5 years. But for me to be a man is to really be in service to something greater than my own ego, greater than my own desires, greater than my own ambitions. Because I feel like when masculinity is like centered around myself, what I want, it often becomes destructive. It can hurt people, but it's also self-serving. And so what I learned for myself is how can the things that I find myself so called to do, whether it's lead, provide, take care of my loved ones, how can I do that in a way that is coming from a place of not ego? It's coming from a place of looking out for those that I might feel are weak, are helpless, are powerless, or are vulnerable. And that for me is in alignment with my North Star, my principles, my values. And so for me to be a man is to live in alignment with that. Because at the end of the day, when I'm resting on my deathbed, that's what I'm checking in for. Have I lived according to my values, to my North Star, my principles, my moral code? How in alignment was I with that? And where did I falter? So for me, it's to live according to that unapologetically. Unapologetically, no matter what it might look like to other people. That's what I'm going to ask myself at the end of my life. So, which might change in 5 years from now. So that's where I'm at right now.
What does it mean to you, Lou?
I think it seems odd to me that it's such a contentious topic at the moment to even have the conversation around masculinity. I think it's interesting that it's so contentious. I think the thing that I loved about what you said is that all of what you said requires reflection. And I think reflection, introspection is a superpower. So to be aware of and to be able to critique one's own behavior, actions, thoughts, and to have a North Star and to have values and have principles that you live by is a really, really good place to start, because for so long, when I reflect now, I was living in a way that was the shadow of the masculine, right? When I say the shadow, I mean self-serving, a slave to emotional drivers, a slave to urges and wants, and all of that was rooted in fear. And I wasn't able to move beyond that until I was able to reflect on those behaviors honestly. And I think an extension of that is to have examples of behaviors that you can aspire to adopt and be like. And I feel like for a long time, culturally, we haven't had obvious role models that align with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that you guys have shared. I think it's a really interesting point that I'd love for us to come back to around, I suppose, why it's a contentious conversation to be having. And I think there's a lot in there, you know, even the language around toxic masculinity and how that's become so ingrained in culture. For me, it's really about choice and agency. I find it challenging in these conversations at times to give a singular definition, because that feels very polarizing, very binary, and it doesn't give space to to what it means to be human for an individual. And actually, for me, that will look different to you. That will look different to you. There might be some similarities. There might be some energetics to that, some certain qualities to that. But actually, it can look different for everybody. And it's the choice, rather than outsourcing that to somebody else, that I think is the powerful thing. And then I think there's something that I've always reflected on around this notion of power and how perhaps historically, you know, you talk about ego, you talk about self-serving, these shadow aspects of humanity and of masculinity is this assertion of dominance or power over others, to suppress or keep down or create hierarchy. And actually, for me, at the core of what I feel it means to be a man and how I seek to live my life is primarily from a place of power with and power for. You know, can I embody my own power and stand in my own power in such a way that I'm able to lift everybody around me up, you know, power and peace and happiness and success, fulfillment shouldn't be a zero-sum game. It shouldn't be, if I'm rising, that means you're falling. And I think that's where we've gone awry in the past. And then this probably the single biggest word for me that aligns with how I want to live my life as a man is integrity. Being a man of my word behind closed doors as well as out in the open. Am I showing up in the way that I want to and seek to day in, day out? I'm intrigued in your work with men that you do when you speak with men. What are guys struggling with behind the scenes? What are perhaps they not showing, or maybe they are showing it and it's popping out in different ways. But what are you seeing as some of the themes as what men are up against in their lives at the moment?
Yeah, there's a lot that shows up. But what I find really common is what I call this like impossible equation. It's how can I show up for my needs and feel happy in the relationship? And then how can I show up for the people in my life and make sure they're happy in the relationship? And how can I do that in a way that makes all parties happy? I think it's an impossible equation. And sometimes I think as men, what I've noticed is that we might step in one direction, like a little too deep, to where, again, I'm self-serving, I'm kind of rooted in what I want out of the situation. Or then I follow the happy wife, happy life kind of motto, where I'm more concerned about her, and then I'm sidelighting my own needs, my own desires, my own boundaries, right? So it's like, how can we find that middle ground? And this is like the most common thing that comes up when I'm talking to men. They're trying to find this middle ground where they're rooted in their masculinity. They feel respected as a leader, as a provider, whatever that means to them. And then they also feel that their woman has space to feel empowered, to feel respected, to feel soft or nurtured in her femininity. So that's a theme that I'm noticing a lot of men struggle with. It's like, I don't want to be this peacekeeper where I'm constantly trying to keep the peace, but I'm doing it in a way that betrays my own needs. It betrays what I want in this situation. It betrays what I want to say, but I'm going to silence that because I want to avoid an argument. I want to avoid a fight. And so it creates a lot of this like people-pleasing energy, nice guy energy, which I think, coming back to your point, is we don't have a lot of models for what like healthy, grounded, mature, masculine energy can look like embodied as a father, as a man, as a partner, as a husband, even just as a single guy living in the world, pursuing your purpose or calling. We don't have a lot of examples of that. And I think when we don't have examples, we're doomed to repeat what we saw, what the culture gives us. And so the culture gives us these red pill prophets, is what I call them, right? And then we look at that and we're like, okay, that's it, right? Because oftentimes those red pill prophets are attached to things that we value as men, which is status, which is wealth, which is women. And coming back to what you said, it's power. And that's what I want. So if I'm looking at that, despite what women might be saying, might be critiquing it, I'm like, at the end of the day, you might still choose him over me. You might still be with him because of these things that he has. So it's hard for me not to then try to follow that path and try to follow that blueprint because I don't have any examples that possess those traits in a way that's actually grounded, in a way that's actually constructive. So I'm kind of fine. That's where I meet men at, is in the realm of that guesswork. Like, what does this look like? How can I do it? And my thing is always like, I'm not here to give you the blueprint. I'm not here to save you. I'm not here to fix you. We're here to find out, what is it going to look like embodied through you? Because I feel masculinity is like a spirit in a way. And that spirit moves to everybody in a different way. But it's exactly what you said earlier, which is like, that's going to take some real deep self-exploration and reflection of some uncomfortable conversations we have to have. And you have to have between yourself, because a lot of men are given a life to live, right? They don't get to choose their own life. Its responsibilities are handed to us very early on. I was one of them. I was a kid that grew up too fast. I didn't get the time to pause. Like, how much of this do I really want to take on? How much of this is actually genuine to my journey, my North Star, my ambitions, my desires, my goals? Or is this, am I doing this because it's what I'm supposed to do or what I should be doing? But the challenge and go against that is really an uncomfortable truth, because I think a lot of things have to go then if I face that. And I don't want to do that.
I think we have the remnants of a cultural structure whereby, because of the dominance of men physically, women have been the generations and generations treated as secondary citizens that are essentially the property of men. Mm-hmm. And there's a remnants of that still remains today. And because we've inherited a way that is easier for the man, better for the man, because we have the power and the control, for many that blindly adopt the way it's always been, it's hard to let go of that. And that's the model that we've inherited. Right. I think the biggest challenge that I've come up against recently is that I reread a book called The Book of Women by Osho. I read the book about 10 years ago and I didn't get it at all. In fact, it was so triggering I didn't finish it. And I recently went for a breakup, and the breakup was incredibly painful. And the only reason the breakup was painful was because of my attachment and my ownership over my partner, and the love that I had for her that was conditional on being loved in return and having a list of requirements met by her for that love to exist. And in reading this book of Osho, who again is contentious for many reasons, but actually had a lot of amazing wisdom in what he said, is around that love in itself is, when it's unconditional, is a true expression of love, but when it's attached to a condition is actually fear masquerading as love. Attachment is rooted in fear. It's saying that you are my wife, let's sign a contract and promise that you will always love me for eternity. But none of us can control anything that happens outside of the moment that we're in right now. So how can we expect someone to make a promise, let alone have that as legally binding beyond the moment that we're in? So I think where for many of us relationships become challenging is that the fact that they're rooted in fear around losing something which we cannot control beyond the moment that we're in. And so there's a holding on, there's a grip to it. And so that looks like being very dominant in relationships. It looks like manipulation. It looks like control. It looks like contracts, literally and figuratively. I think we place so many conditions on love in order to protect ourselves so that we don't lose the thing that's given us the feeling of being a man, that we don't actually experience love itself because we're so tied to the possibility that it may disappear. And I only had this realization through a relationship ending and asking myself, could I stay in a state of love if I now saw her with someone else? If I never saw her again? If I couldn't find anyone else and I was by myself, could I still? And ask that question brought up so much fear in me that through working through that fear, I realized that, wow, I wasn't in love, I was in fear. And I got to the place where I could actually practice it. And then reading the book was like, just brought it all home. Triggering book, but an amazing, but an amazing realization. And I think that's where for many of us, we have challenge in relationship. It's because we think we're in love, but we're in fear.
We'll be right back to the episode after a very quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Whoop. The all-new Whoop is here. The only wearable that turns your health and fitness data into personalized guidance, now 7% smaller, with over 14 days of battery life. I've been using Whoop to stay on top of my recovery, training, and stress during busy periods, and the insights have genuinely changed the way I look after my body, how I train, and my overall health and well-being. Whoop includes a heart screener with on-demand ECG readings so you can check in on your heart anytime and share the results with your healthcare provider. It also includes HealthSpan, a new feature that demystifies the aging process and shows how your daily habits impact your pace of aging, as well as hormonal insights for personalized guidance throughout your cycle or pregnancy for women. It's the only wearable that gives you a truly comprehensive view of your body, designed to help you improve your performance, longevity, and overall health. You can join Whoop now at join.whoop.com/human nature. That's join.whoop.com/human nature.
Something you said around being able to confront that possible reality where she finds someone else, she's in another relationship, and facing that fear for me is like the most masculine shit ever. Because when you think about a very masculine guy, the archetype of the warrior comes to mind for me, right? That's, you know, willing to risk his life to protect his village. He's confronting, he's facing fear directly. And he's not afraid of what's going to happen. Though he's afraid, he still finds the way to muster up the courage to face it anyway. That same quality and that same trait is required of us in those moments of deep reflection. Where is that courage that I can embody in this moment to face the possible reality that she might be with somebody different? Maybe she might have that love. And all of those uncomfortable truths require those same masculine traits and principles that we, you know, externalize in let's say, a warrior or a loving father.
Absolutely. Yeah, it reminds me of something we were talking about this morning at the gym, being men. And it was around this notion of, I guess, this misunderstanding. I think maybe one of the big misunderstandings or misinterpretations of modern masculinity, or the legacy of it, around Stoicism, and Stoicism being this like unwavering equanimity, which is part of the core of Stoicism, but not from a place of repression, but actually from a place of confronting and accepting what is in front of you, meeting reality on reality's terms, right? And going, that is a possibility. And I will be okay in spite of that, even if that is made manifest. And it was the Adam Rower post that we both saw, which was that it was around the love of a good woman leading a man to have to confront the fear that he is not good enough. Like, in order to lean into that true, genuine love, you will have to face the fear that you're not good enough. And you will stumble and falter and fall and get back up again. And that's how the trust is then built in the relationship, is actually not running away from that fear and pretending that it doesn't exist and repressing those emotions and being like, I'm a man because I don't feel that, but actually I'm a man because I do, and I choose still to show up. And I think that's to your point, right? Of like, that's the most masculine thing that I can think of is the choice to continue showing up.
Most women can hold that. Most women can hold that. But for men, I think for many of us, and I can speak for myself in the past, there's a responsibility on us to just go there and see. And you want to do that pretty early on to know if someone can hold that, right? Right? I think most women can. I think where we go wrong is we don't communicate fully. We don't express fully. And I think full expression, I think, is the baseline. If you have full expression and the person can't hold it, then they're not the right fit for you anyway. Yeah,
my challenge is asking the question of can they hold that? Because I think, you know, I don't love the language of toxic masculinity, but if we look at the undoubtedly negative impact of the patriarchy, we've all been living under that system, and it's negatively impacted men in a number of ways. It's also negatively impacted women in a number of ways. I think one of the legacies of patriarchy in a lot of ways, but particularly in relational dynamics, is that male vulnerability and true male emotional expression is not held by anybody particularly well, men or women. We can't hold our own. And other people can't hold it for us. And so, not that anyone has to hold it for us, but to hold space for that in some way, I think is something that we are all, and it's nobody's fault, but incredibly unpracticed in the art of witnessing and holding male emotional expression. I think that's one of the big challenges, is that we've seen this pendulum swing of like, come on guys, you really need to talk more about your feelings, and everyone's now talking more about their feelings, but no one knows what to do with it. Men don't know how to discern when, how, or why to share. There's not emotional discipline. And women, in not every case, we're not going to generalize across everybody, but I feel struggle to hold the expression of that as well. And I think that's something we can think of like an us versus them dynamic, but it's a collaborative piece. Like, how do we actually get better at the expression and the reception of that expression?
Yeah. Oh, man. This comes up a lot. And I think for two reasons. I think one, why I think women do struggle to hold that, because I think one, because as men, a lot of this has been suppressed for years. And so I'm kind of like learning to ride a bike in real time. So I'm fumbling through the dark while I'm in the midst of real beautiful relationship with a woman that wants to hold that space. But she's going to watch me fumble in the dark while I'm trying to find the language. I'm trying to find how to communicate this. And as men, if we don't have those practices, we don't have those spaces to like co-regulate, where I get to practice with other men how to express my vulnerability in a way that's not explosive, in a way that's not dismissive to other people's experience, but in a way that actually creates more intimacy in my relationships. Helps, like, feels like an invitation. Like my vulnerability feels like an invitation to you to inquire more deeply or to learn more about me. But I think as guys, because we don't have those models, we don't have those spaces, and then we finally get into a relationship where maybe this is the first time we actually feel safe to express ourselves. Everything comes bursting out. My childhood trauma, my dreams, my fears. This is what I want. You're getting the like nerdy, dorky side of me as well. And it's a lot. It's a lot for a woman because in a way, I'm looking for her to hold space for a lifetime of unmet needs. A lifetime of me not feeling safe with my brothers, who I thought were my brothers, were really buddies who I can keep the conversation surface level, never really go deep with. And then this childhood home where I wasn't also allowed to express emotions outside of maybe anger. And so now I'm like placing all of that pressure in this one container. And any woman is going to be like, whoa, 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 this is too much for me.
Sure.
And some might lean in because that's part of their conditioning as well, as to be emotional caretakers. But again, it will exhaust her in the process. And there will be a death of polarity. There will be a death of like you're my man, like that masculine guy that I know you can be. There's a death.
Where do you think we as men now what are the spaces that we can form relationship in, or at least connect with women in a way that's healthy? Because from what I see happening on a macro scale is that 10 years ago, you'd be out in a club or a bar, right? You can say that these aren't the best environments, but I've met some great people in clubs and bars, and I've met some narcissistic people on retreats. So I think it goes both. I think it goes both ways. But now, where we have the demise of of nightlife culture, we have people spending more time on devices, and I think for people that are not necessarily connected to themselves or knowing themselves and what they need, we can create a persona that we think will be attractive to someone. Women do the same. And then two personas meet who aren't the real expression of the individual. So how do you feel like men can meet women in a space where it's conducive to forming connection? And the second part of that question, I would say, is how do we do it in a way where we don't come across as predatory? Because I speak to men, like my friends now, like being single for the first time in a long time, it used to be okay. I would feel okay 4 years ago maybe to be in a bar and just walk up to someone and have a conversation. Today, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I think what's changed and why this topic of masculinity is contentious is because no one knows what's okay and what's not. Because we see examples of, this guy approached me in the gym and it was completely inappropriate, or this guy came up to me in the bar and I was with and it was awkward. What do we do? And there's more and more people people having less kids, people that are alone, people that are suffering from loneliness. We're having an issue with connection somewhere.
Right. I agree. The approach for me that I find really helpful, especially when you're building connections with women, but you're a single guy that's trying to get out of your comfort zone. Because I think there is a certain comfort that we find now in this age where we have the dating apps. Where I can, swipe and message, and you have Instagram where I slide in her DM. She posted a cute selfie. I like her story. And then I hope that sparks some kind of conversation or some kind of connection. And I think that is a way to hide from rejection, even though in that you could still be rejected. You send a like, you never get a match back. You plan to meet up and she ghosts you 30 seconds later.
It doesn't hit like being told to go away.
right. But it doesn't hit the same when you're in the presence of a woman you find attractive, you're interested in, and she just kind of turns you down. right? So I'm still hiding from rejection in a certain way, and these devices help me to do that, especially if I'm a guy that kind of is afraid of putting myself out there. So I would encourage men. I have guys that have a hybrid approach where they do meet women through the apps, but I say 70-30. 30% of your time is on the apps trying to connect with women. 70% is going out there, putting yourself out there, like feeling that discomfort and learning how to calibrate through it, and regulate through it. But when you're out there, to avoid being creepy or being seen as a predator, there's some of that you can't control. But what I say that you can control is tuning into feminine signals. Women drop what's called drop the hanky method. They all do it, whether they realize they're doing it or not. So drop the hanky method is where basically a woman, let's say in the 1950s, would drop a hanky. A guy would walk up, pick up the hanky, hand it to her, and be like, oh, you dropped this. What she's doing is she's creating space for his masculinity to basically come online and be active, and for her to be in a feminine state of receiving that. And then from there, he can advance that conversation however he wants. But it's an old method, but it's really feminine. And most women do it today digitally. They might post a cute selfie to drop the hanky and wait for the guy that she's going to look through her story and see, did he like this?
Yeah.
Did he heart this? To drop the hanky, that's a digital version of it.
It's
right?
interesting that the hanky thing, actually, the original version taps into something that I think is quite uniquely masculine as well, which is feeling useful.
Feeling
helpful.
useful. Yes.
Like,
I got you.
Like working dogs, like literally something to provide value, to be of service in some way.
And the woman wants to know that because it's a way for her to kind of like vet us as well. Because if I'm creating those signals for you and you don't take advantage of the moment to talk to me, to ask for my number, to lead the conversation into a date next Friday, then you aren't the man that I would want to build a relationship with them. I want a man that's able to seize the moment. I want a man that, I can be receptive to his leadership because that says a lot about you in those first few moments. So those feminine signals when you're out and about, are women just giving you a 4-second gaze? 4 seconds. I go, like when I see that, I go. It's a 4-second gaze, and a woman that's very in touch with her femininity and understands her body, she's going to know that I'm doing this intentionally. And whether he approaches me or not, I know that I kind of did my part. Because women are also very terrified of rejection. I think there would be a lot more relationships if women went out there and was like, let me say hi to him. Let me spark a conversation. Sure. I think there would be a lot more relationships. Because we're all afraid of rejection at the end of the day. It's a scary thing. Yeah. But I think women have this drop the hanky method. And I think as men, we can look for those cues. Another one is asking pointless questions. Again, it's like questions and things that she could do on her own, but she's presenting them to you, like trying to create room for you to feel useful, feel masculine. So it might be like, what's the nearest coffee here in London? It's like, you've been living here for 5 years.
You have a phone with everyone.
You have a phone. Yeah. ChatGPT is there now. Like, why are you asking me? So as a guy, if I'm not used to getting these signals, I completely overlook. It just flies over my head. I'm like, why did she ask me that? That was such a dumb question.
It's really interesting as well, because I do think, again, generalizing that women are naturally very tuned into subtlety and signals, and men are not. Like, I know myself, I'm an idiot in certain moments where I'm like, she was just asking me about coffee, bro. And my friend would be like, no, she wasn't. Like, you just completely missed that. And so it's interesting the different languages that we work with as well across the dynamic.
Right. Because I think women process their world entirely different from ours. So there's that, how do we fill that gap? Because their relationship to their emotions and the way they think and operate, and what they might think is a signal to us, we might not interpret that as a signal. But again, it's like what you said. I don't want to come off as predatory. I don't want to come off as creepy. So there's that. I'm more hesitant to actually even take that signal on, and I
think on that, what comes up for me around like, oh, I don't want to come across as a creep. It's like, well, the fact that you're thinking about that probably tells me that there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to come across as a creep, because there's a level of intentionality there. Right. And it's all about the energy, right? And the expectation and your attachment to the expectation. Because nothing worse, a guy bowling over, bolshy, overconfident, expecting something, like she owes him something, asking, can I buy you a drink? She's given no signal, just, can I buy you a drink? And she says, no. He takes it personally.
Right.
Says, what? are you a lesbian? Like, taking it so to heart and just saying something ridiculous. And that's the notion of the creep, the douchebag, who's just doing things in a way where there's expectation, there's attachment. But actually, I think if you are asking the question, all you have to do is be open to the fact that you might get rejected. That is a possibility. But go in with a level of confidence that allows that to flourish as well as an opening to a connection. Yeah.
I think it's you and I spoke about this recently. It's about having intention with everything that you do, and knowing what you're looking for as well. Because in different seasons of our lives, we're looking for different things, right? Like maybe if you're building a project and you've got a lot going on in your life, your intention for what you're looking for out of a relationship dynamic is going to be very different to if you've just sold a company, you've got a load of time off, you want to go and travel. It's going to be a different thing. Or if you're wanting to build a family and you're just depending on where you are in your life is going to require a different intention around who you want to meet. How do you see dating today, given social media, given the world that we live in, versus dating 10 years ago? Like, what's changed? What do you see the challenges for people that you speak to now? I think to set it up, we have such distorted view of what normal looks like now, and expectation is crazy. Like, I have a lot of female friends, and if they talk about their dating lives, I'm always interested. Oh, what's going on? Every woman's expecting a guy who's 6 foot, he's a millionaire, flies the world, has an amazing, super interesting job, is perfectly emotionally regulated, dresses immaculately, and will do anything for them. I think that's the main difference in the last 10 years or so with social media.
What do you think, just before we dive into that answer, like, what do you think the reverse of that is? What are guys expecting?
I think what we're expecting as guys, and where we go wrong, where I've gone wrong, I'm expecting my partner to be absolutely everything. My best friend, my gym partner, my therapist, like amazing intimacy, like the whole package in one person. And as soon as they're not, something's wrong.
Yeah, social media, I think, has helped us in a lot of ways when it comes to connection, but I think it's done more harm than good at where it's at right now. Because there's this inability to distinguish between my wants and my needs. What I actually need from a partner and a need in a relationship, that list is, it's not that long. I need a supportive partner. I need someone that's curious about me, curious about my inner world. I need someone that, we have shared vision and shared values and alignment, and that I'm attracted to at the end of the day and I get along with. I mean, that's really what I need at the end of the day in a relationship. Now, my list of wants, I mean, it's pretty long if I don't understand the difference between the two. And I think with social media, it magnifies our expectations of love, because now we're perceiving that we have more options than we actually do, right? So I might go on social media and I look at somebody else's relationship. I start following them for a while, and then I'm like, oh, this is what they're experiencing. This is what they get. And then I add that as an option in which I can experience in love or in my relationships. And I think for men, it's very difficult because we're visual creatures. So there is something I saw on Instagram, was like a meme of like, I was never supposed to see this many baddies in my lifetime. I agree.
Did you see that one where it was like, if your grandfather, who fought in the Second World War, saw one of the girls that you see on Instagram per day, he would write songs and poems about her and burn down an entire village just to get back to her. And you're seeing 10 of them a minute.
I swear to God. So it's like I'm swiping. Imagine I'm doom scrolling on TikTok for an hour. Boom, boom, boom. Just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Colombia, whoa. Miami, Jesus Christ, what's going on? So it exaggerates my expectations of the women I meet. Again, I don't really understand what normal is. I don't have a baseline of what reality is. So I'm living in a fantasy, and fantasies cannot survive contact with reality. They can't. So now I'm expecting my woman to look like this, and if she doesn't, then oh my God, she's the wrong one for me. And I'm looking at other relationships where this guy is telling me about what is happening in his relationship when she's providing him. And I'm like, oh, I'm with the wrong woman then. And it's like, that's their reality. That's their reality. And so if I'm looking at all these beautiful women every day, again, like come back to this, 500 years ago, I mean, my ancestors probably saw like one of the women that I see every day on Instagram.
But the
like,
inverse of that for the
lifetime.
woman is, if the minute there's an issue in the relationship, can post, here's a bikini pic, and get 20 guys in the DMs and 1,000 likes, has been validated by someone else.
Right.
How is any one partner supposed to compete with that in terms of providing validation?
I can't, right? You post that and you can get a guy in Dubai messaging you being like, hey, what are you up to this weekend? I can bring you to so-and-so. And it's like, you can't. So I think for me, it really does distort our expectations of love and partnership, because we end up trying to materialize or manifest a specific person. We end up trying to cosplay someone else's relationship. And then we end up expecting too much of ourselves and trying to manifest a relationship that we can't actually sustain. Like I might try to sustain this relationship with this beautiful woman, but am I actually in a place to meet her? Am I actually in a place, like if I want somebody that's super fit, this is what's happening to a lot of people. I want somebody super fit, is into wellness. I've been following Jeremie. I've been seeing what his back workout looks like. He looks fucking great. He looks fucking tights. He looks fucking great. I want a guy like that, right? But then I look at myself. I'm like, wait, am I fit? Am I actually in the gym? Am I somebody that he would be attracted to? That's the uncomfortable conversation I'm not having with myself, because this social media world is helping me. It's yes lighting me. It's making me think I'm somebody that I'm actually not right now. And that's where the work is. It's like the personal embodiment of becoming what I want to attract. But I think people are spending too much time on social media that are informing their expectations on what they can experience in love. And a lot of it is rooted in fantasy. A lot of it is rooted in fantasy. Because if I come to a woman and I tell her, you have to be high earning, you have to make a lot of money, I want you to be independent, and then I want you to come home and cook and clean for me, take care of the kids, and cosplay a woman from the 1950s. Any woman will look at me and be like, you're very entitled, and you need to step out that fantasy.
Yeah.
That's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But you can't tell them that, because that's what they're saying about the men that they're desiring. They want a non-traditional man that's deconstructed masculinity, that's done all this emotional work, but still adheres to a traditional model of a relationship. I still want you to be the provider, though. I still want you to be the head of the household. I still want you to provide and take care of all the financial responsibilities. A non-traditional man in a traditional relationship. You want me to construct the gender norms, but still adhere to the gender roles? It's very improbable. It's not impossible, but it's improbable. Meaning it's less likely to happen. There's always a trade-off. And now with social media, we all think we don't have to sacrifice anything. There's no compromise that has to happen. I think that's where it's unhealthy.
There seems to be a lot of confusion, I think, around that topic in particular of traditional relational roles or gender roles, and then equality and this non-hierarchical structure and all of the good that's come with that, where, you know, anyone can be anything that they want to be in life. They can have whatever they want. You know, you can really, there is a level, obviously there's always kind of more work to be done, but a level of fluidity in the sense of a woman can, you know, be an entrepreneur and a mother and a partner and everything else that she wants to be. But then it almost clashes against what feels like somewhat biological in terms of polarity, in terms of relational dynamics. And I think we've had this conversation with, I hear a lot of female friends whispering this conversation, not saying it publicly because they don't want to, you know, get the wrath of the feminists who are saying, what you want to, are you saying you want to go back to traditional gender roles? Right. I thought you were on our side. And it's very much this us versus them dynamic. And I think a lot of people are now just going, I'm not even sure what I want. So I'm going to aim for everything. And I'll come back to that TikTok mantra of if they wanted to, they would. And anyone who doesn't do what I want is a narcissist and they're toxic and I'll cut them out. And it doesn't make any sense. And everyone's going, I want love, I want acceptance, I want to feel safe. But the version of that is presenting is so warped and so unattainable and so confusing and conflicting that nobody knows where to begin. In terms of the topic of polarity, I think I was thinking, I banked a question from earlier when we were talking about caretaking from the female perspective. I was actually with a group of mostly women in a work context over the weekend, and this conversation came up of, I was like, yeah, I want to feel cared for by my partner, and I've sort of met with, so you want to be mothered? I'm like, not what I said. Thank you for leaping there. And again, there's this conflict of emotional space holding versus caretaking, and where that then falls into dynamics of polarity, and how do we maintain a level of healthy polarity in a modern dynamic within a relationship?
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, for men that just want a supportive woman at the end of the day, because having a supportive woman, man, does so much for a man, especially if he's ambitious, he's driven, he has direction in his life. Having a supportive woman, there's a statistic that says a man with a supportive woman is 3 times more likely to succeed in his business, right? And I feel like so many men I meet, I work with, they're one supportive woman away from like thriving in their business, right? They're gonna own the company you work for in 5 years with that supportive woman by their side, right? So it's like an essential for a man, especially if he's driven, especially if he has goals, especially as a mission. It's essential.
I think some women think they want that man and the traits that he exhibits to be that successful man are attractive in the first instance. But when they step into partnership with that man, they're the same traits that then push them away.
Right.
I'm not your priority. You don't have time for me.
No.
You are so detail orientated that it doesn't work. And it's the same things that make you successful are the things that make the relationship challenging.
I'd say often that shows up, in my opinion, when there's a lack of balance, though. In exactly the same way, I would happily support my partner if she wants to have her own business and run that. But if the CEO is also coming home and displaying those same traits at home, there will be problems. And it's actually about how integrated are you in the sense of like, yeah, go build the business that you want to build, go chase after your mission, your purpose, whatever. But can you still hold space to prioritize a partner? Like I would want to think that I'd be able to be on here and then off here and not actually just always like, I could understand the sense of not feeling prioritized if there is a lack of intentionality between what's happening when.
Yeah. So I feel when it comes to the mothering and creating that polarity, there's an uncomfortable question that I think women who resist offering that level of support, and they lump and conflate that support with mothering. You ask him one question: what is the first letter of his name? What's the first letter of his name? There's a guy that's going to pop up in their head that they did love unconditionally in a way, that they poured their everything into. They were patient with him before he even earned it. They were understanding before he even changed. They gave that to a man at some point in their lives. And in the process, maybe in reflection, they realized they gave it to a man that wasn't able to handle it, didn't protect it, or didn't really cherish the gift that he was being given. And so this creates an imprint on their natural instinct to nurture, to support, to multiply whatever she's given, right, with her love and attention and care. It creates an imprint of like, whoa, that's not safe. You shouldn't do that. And men, we go through this in our own ways. We have a woman we go, just absolutely devotional with. We give our love, we pour into her. We do everything that we can possibly in that relationship. And in the process, we realize, oh my God, I gave it all to the wrong woman. This woman was not with me for the right reasons, or she betrayed me behind my back, or I found all of these things. It imprints on all of us, right? The things that we naturally want to give into our relationships, we then become hesitant towards providing, and we become very suspicious about. Why do you want that from me? Why are you asking that of me? Why is that a need of yours? That's not a need. That's coming from childhood wounds. You need to grow beyond that. That's not my responsibility. That's your work. where we're like forfeiting the responsibility of loving the person that we say we love. And with that love comes support. It comes care, it comes attention, it comes devotion, if that's, something that we aspire towards, right? But we have to do the uncomfortable work of unpacking the experiences that now shape our resistance to doing the very things that we know are in our hearts is what we want to provide and give to the other person.
Comes back to reflection, right? It's an exercise I went through recently, which was, I think whenever you break up with someone, it's very quick to think about all the things that they did wrong. It's a lot harder to reflect on all the things that maybe where you acted out of alignment with how you want to show up. And through this process of journaling, the ways that I contributed to the demise of the connection was so enlightening. And a step beyond that was then to discuss it. It's like, and I'm coming from a place of we're not getting back together. We've said that, but the best thing we can do for each other now is I'll explain to you where I didn't show up and maybe why. And you can do the same thing. And it's almost like that. We've talked about this before. It's like, it's so painful because you both recognize it, but it's too late.
After the fact.
But if you can take those learnings into the next dynamic, it's the best way to honor the experience that you have with that person.
For sure. I think there's also something in this resistance to support and devotion and really giving yourself fully to someone in a relationship where we've somewhat fetishized independence in our society. You need to maintain your independence. So there's a subtle guarding where it's like, I've been burnt before, or I don't want to lose myself in a relationship. And I was listening, I think it was Alan Watts I was listening to the other day, again, somewhat controversial male figure in certain ways.
Alan Watts controversial?
I think there's some stuff around him and relational
really?
patterns, yeah.
Even the end of his life.
Yeah.
I know he's an alcoholic and whatever else.
Some question marks.
He's my goat, man.
No question around his brain and his thoughts, for sure. But it was about, we think about, I don't want to give myself completely to someone because I'll lose myself. But actually, I feel, in a devoted, committed, supported relationship, that it's almost a case of giving yourself so completely to something that you find yourself through that process, rather than this fear of losing yourself. But the fear of losing yourself comes from the illusion of control, because you're going, I might lose parts of myself trying to make this what I think it needs to be and trying to control it. But actually, if you're fully surrendered to it and you're genuinely in a mutual place of, I give myself to this, then that's really the foundation for something to really thrive in the way that it deserves to.
Yeah, I agree.
Staying with controversy for a minute.
Let's do it.
Let's go there, huh?
Some clickbait.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is controversial in this space that you question? Like, why is that controversial? Like, is there anything in this space that's positioned as controversial, that's difficult to speak about, that you think, actually, we should just be able to speak about that?
Or anything that you think has been normalized that you think is a load of bullshit as well?
I think it comes back to the same thing. I think it's women's participation in the upholding of the patriarchal systems that they critique and they claim they want to put an end to. I think it's controversial to talk about women's responsibility in that. I think we are very aware of men's responsibility in it, but I think women uphold it in subtle ways. And it's evident in their dating preferences. And if you ask a woman what's her ideal partner, she's going to describe what you described earlier. A high-earning man, a man that's very confident, a man that's a leader, a man that's a provider, a man that, preferably is over 6 foot tall. He's a problem solver. Where do all of these traits come from? They're nurtured by the same system you're critiquing. They're nurtured by it. So you want the perks of men that have been conditioned by the patriarchy, but you don't want the responsibility that comes with it. But you want the perks of it. It's like a benevolent patriarch. It works in your favor. But you don't understand the struggle, the battles that the men have to go through to become that for you in relationship. You don't want to honor that process. You want to label it as bad. You want to label it as toxic. But then you praise and you idolize and you romanticize these very traits in a man that you think he has to possess in order to be attractive to you, in order for you to want to create a relationship with him. So they're not upholding it in their politics, never, but it's in their preferences. It's very evident in their preferences, the men they say they want to have in their relationships. And so it's a difficult place for men to be in, because it's like, well, you're telling me not to kind of lean into this conditioning that, you know, has bred me in a way, and so many other men. But then you're telling me to also embody the very things that come with that conditioning. What do I do here? What do I do? And so men, we're in a difficult place, because it's like, how can I live according to my own values and also still be attractive to my ideal partner as well? How can I do that in a way that doesn't sacrifice my own relationship with myself in the process, which is I lose myself in it. And so I think having the conversation around that part, and women, the misandry is very trendy, and it's very mild critique of it is met with hostility.
Yeah.
You critique a woman on her hate and the misandry online, and you are completely villainized, and you'll get an army of women that are like, you can't say that, you can't say that. But critique of men is easy. Critique of men is easy. Yeah. But you are rarely allowed to critique women, critique how they're showing up, or question their responsibility in any of the dysfunction in a relationship. So maybe controversial, maybe, but I don't think it should.
No.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with Stride. And I'm going to hand over to Andrew, the founder of Stride, to tell you a little bit more about it.
Millions of us track our steps every day. We track our sleep stages, we track our heart rate and our heart rate variability. But what's crazy is that we don't actually track what's going on inside, and I want to change that. I believe that tracking your internal biomarkers and biology should be as common and as habitual as tracking your wearable data. Whether you're already tracking your fitness, your sleep, your recovery, whether you're looking for better energy and resilience and focus in your day-to-day life, be that at work or at home, or if you're just looking to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible, Stride One gives you complete clarity for your health. Your membership includes expert coaching, personalized recommendations, access to tailored supplements just for you, and ongoing regular retesting. You'll regularly track your DNA, your gut microbiome, advanced blood biomarkers, and biological age. You'll be assigned your own registered dietitian for expert coaching and ongoing support. And we wrap all of this into a simple, easy to use digital platform. We'll help you turn your health data into action. This is more than a membership. It's a movement towards smarter choices, longer life, and complete clarity for your health.
You can get 10% off all your orders with Stride at getstride.com/human. Now let's get back to the show.
Something in there, again, that I've maybe felt and sensed recently as well, which is that it comes back to this idea of it all being a zero-sum game, right? If women are rising, men are falling, or if men are rising, then women are falling, rather than this very collaborative human experience of, if we all want the same kind of things, we all want to feel safe, we want to feel, comfortable, we want to feel like we can thrive. And that for me is probably the most challenging thing I see, even as I think about this conversation, right? It's three guys having this conversation. And that's what I even see in like the world of men's work. I think, sitting in a circle with other men, women sitting in a circle with women is important, but not in isolation and in silo. And I feel that mixed spaces where actually, yes, the guys at the tail end, the thin tail of red pill, hyper masculinity, if you want to call it that, and maybe the very extreme forms of feminism, misandry at the other end of the tail, maybe they don't want to sit in a room together. But as with politics, as with anything, the bulk of the people in the middle can relate to each other in one way or another. And I think there's not enough of that happening to actually go, hang on a second, it's not what TikTok's saying over here or over here, but the majority are actually saying more or less similar things, or at least open to a dialogue around how we can move things forward. And one of the things that I've seen that makes me sad in a way is that we can all call on each other to do better, but it feels at times in this narrative of, men are trash, or, whatever the narrative is that certain pockets of people think that the solution to that is to sink to that level, to sink to the level of the men that you do view as trash. And actually women are going, how can we find ways to get back at those guys and just bring the collective level down and down and down. And that's something that I think we don't hear talked about enough, is actually just how can we lift each other up? Not just men lifting men, women lifting women, but how can we actually lift each other up? And I think that's something that's lacking at the moment.
I think we're in such an interesting time where when we were teenagers, young men, sex wasn't as spoken about or as open or as seen as it is today for young people, and has always been the most effective form of marketing. But today, almost everything is sexualized. And I think through false idols, women are taught that actually it's a quick way to get the things that society tells you that you want. In recent culture, like the whole Bonnie Blue thing, we're in a crazy time for that, and the message that sends out. I think, to your point about these conversations, it's important to have positive role models that represent something else, and I don't see enough of those. How do you feel that this like sexualization of culture is affecting relationships, is affecting men, is affecting women?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, because part of a man's ideal woman, most of the times he will describe her as modest. Describe her as a modest woman that has her self-respect, that, for some might even say a very low body count. There's all of that, right? But I think it's difficult in relationship then, because I might say I want that woman, but online I'm double tapping on something completely different, right? So it's like, as a man, it's very difficult if, again, this is my feed, right? This is what I'm feeding. This is what I'm attracted to. I'm not saying that, but then it goes against the type of woman I say that I want to be with, right? I'm shaming these women. I'm in the comments, I'm like, I can't believe you'd wear that. Bonnie Blue, how dare you? Your father should be ashamed. He should be in prison. How he has failed you, right? I'm there with that, right? I'm critiquing it. I'm telling everyone it's horrible. But then behind the scenes, I'm jerking off to it. I'm enjoying it. I'm fantasizing about it. And then I'm telling my brothers or my coach or my therapist, this is the kind of woman I want. I want her to be modest. I'm having all of these checklists of things that I don't actually live by. I don't actually live by. There's no coherence in my actions, my thoughts, my beliefs, and my principles, right? There's none. So I think when it comes to the sexualization, I think for men, it's really just taking responsibility for our sexual energy. Because I think in a way, it's still, I always see a lot of these things as a shit test, like you see it online, like whatever, you move on. It's not for me. It's not in alignment with what I'm trying to call in. If I'm a guy that's single and I'm like, I want a wife-ready woman, that's this, and that, right? Then I have to be willing to lower my gaze towards the things that don't align with that. Because the more I say no to that, the more I say yes to a future with this woman.
Comes back to what makes you a man. And I was thinking when you were talking then about makes you a man is the ability to reconcile the things that pull you out of alignment with who you want to be, and not respond to those. Like for me, like the opposite of being a man, or let's say the shadow masculine, is like you walk down the street, someone trips you, you get into a fight. You see a vulnerable girl, you go and hit on her. You see like these are the, like being a slave to those like impulses and drivers is the shadow. To stay in alignment with the vision of who you want to be, and be the protector, the leader, everything else, and not be pulled by those things is the alignment. And it's the same as trying to reconcile you know, for a lot of our men, this feeling of like lust, which is empty, and this feeling of like deep vulnerability, being seen and witnessed, and doing that for someone else, which is that place of love. And both can be the active sex, but the energies in both are very, very different.
Right.
But sometimes you need to go through that feeling of lust and exploring that to realize that there's an emptiness to it.
Right. I think it's
To
the final
recognize
boss.
that other thing.
Yeah.
It's the final boss.
for all
It's
of
the
us.
final boss.
It's the final
Yeah,
boss.
it comes back to the wants versus needs thing that you mentioned earlier, though, right? It's being able to tune into that, because I think there's again, comes back in my mind to like opposite ends of the spectrum, with the shadow on one side, like the dark shadow, but then also the light shadow, which is the nice guy, the white knight, this guy who is like completely repressing his shadow by showing up as perfect, quote unquote, and trying to be something that ultimately he's not. And I think that for me is where it becomes like whack-a-mole with these shadow parts of ourselves. If you're pushing them down in any way, shape or form, it's going to pop up somewhere else. And I think that's where actually, when you think about the practicalities of stepping into who you want to be as a person, it's not trying not to be the bad parts of you, or those, or even labeling it as bad, those like shadow aspects of you. The lust doesn't go anywhere. It exists within you. And so to actually, it's when you push it away and discount it and shame it, that it spurts out, literally and figuratively, in a different direction. And whether you're at the kind of nice guy end of that shadow masculine, or the douchebag end of the shadow masculine, that's where it's like, okay, what parts of myself am I not connecting to and reconciling my relationship with, that are rearing their head and running the show? And it's then going, who do I want to be? And how do I step into that in a way where those parts they're there, but they're in the background, they're in the backseat. And moving forward from that place, I think for me at least, has been part of the journey of actually going like, how do I step into who I want to be, to choose what I need rather than just acting on impulse on what I want. A big word that comes to mind for me that's been like very, very important in like the last 5 years or so is really sexual discipline. Because I feel like when we talk about the models, we're also not encouraged to be sexually disciplined, right? Men are praised when we conquer women sexually. We're praised for it. We talk to my buddies about it. I tell them, you know, I did this with so-and-so, you know, the locker room talk, right? I'm praised and encouraged to not be sexually disciplined. You can tell a man, hey, I'm kind of saving myself for marriage. I mean, that guy is more than likely going to laugh at you. He's going to tell you there's so many fish out in the sea. Go on Instagram. There's so many beautiful women out here. You're telling me you're saving yourself for marriage? So whatever side of my relationship to lust I'm at, I'm not really encouraged to be disciplined in it, to be intentional, to go against those sexual drivers of like, conquer lust. She's hot. She has a great body. To go beyond that and not pedestalize beauty and physical attraction and look for depth and substance and quality and character in a woman, it's an uphill battle for most men, because the culture encourages the complete opposite, right? It encourages the complete opposite. And then when I look to my friends, the guys that I'm around, they're also doing the complete opposite. So it's like, damn, I can't help but to fall into the trap that's presented to me. So that's why I feel like the sexualization, I'm not going to speak on the woman's experience, but I know as a man, I see it as a shit test. It's here to help me refine myself, my principles, and my conviction to those principles, to live in accordance with that. Because if I see that online and then I give into it, I can't blame the culture. It's on me. That's a choice I made. It's a choice I made to stand in line at the Bonnie Blue line as number 45. That's on me. I can't blame Bonnie. I can't blame Bonnie. And it becomes almost if we think about that at the level of the collective, if individually we make that decision, right, to just, blinkers on and stay in your lane and be disciplined. When that happens on a large scale, we know how culture works. If you stop shining a light on a thing, if you stop giving it energy, it burns away, it fades away. And so as long as that, culture and that side of things is getting the attention and getting the engagement, if we put it in a social media lens, the fire will keep burning. And you can choose to tap out of that yourself, even if it's quote unquote normalized for other people. But I think as a collective, if we think about, the hopes that we might have for society of moving towards a healthier place, as speculative as it might sound, I think that's where it's your individual responsibility to go. Just because those 10 people are talking about it, me choosing not to do it as an individual doesn't make it weird just because it's different.
It's such a challenging topic, I think, for a lot of men to talk about openly. We can talk about it on a surface level. Oh yeah, I met this girl, I met this girl. But to talk about it openly, in relationship, actually, like I'm with this girl and this came up and it made me feel really vulnerable about this. We don't really talk like that, right? But I think relationship is, for at least my own experience, like the thing that I grow through the most. It's the most challenging, but also the most enlightening,
For sure,
dynamic that we can exist in.
I tell you what I found really noticeably healing recently, actually, in our friendship and in relation to this, has been, as I've kind of gone back into romantic connections and dating again, I realized where I have shamed myself or not given space to the parts of me that still feel a bit of anxiety in those moments of uncertainty, because maybe in my mind I'm going, that's not manly, that's not who I want to be. So I put it aside rather than going, can I give space to this? And then once I was able to give space to that, what would happen initially for kind of in my past would be, okay, I feel comfortable sharing this, but the person I'm going to share it with is the person that I'm dating. And then I go, oh, that doesn't actually feel like it's being held or landing quite the way I want it to either. And recently I've found a level of practice and comfort in sharing some of those things with you. And it just takes the sting out of it. I'm not feeling it as much because I'm giving it air. I'm giving it room to breathe. And so I think there is something, it comes back to something we were talking about earlier of practicing with men in terms of how we express and what we share. But then that ties into, again, comes back to patriarchy and elements of the shadow side of masculinity, where we feel terrified of sharing vulnerability with other men as much as we do with women, because it's exposing. It's, certainly in my past, I've had it used against me. I've been shamed for it. I've been bullied for it. Like, there's negative experiences that have shown up. And so I think that for me has been a really interesting practical lesson of actually, when you do lean into, maybe I can share truly vulnerably about what is going on for me right now with a close friend. It just seems to, for me at least, it's taken a lot of the sting out of it. It's been really a powerful part of that process.
Permission to get it wrong.
Yeah.
I think we're all learning literally a new paradigm, right? A new way to be. And whenever you're learning something new and you're testing the limits and the boundaries, we're going to say something wrong. I think to do that against a culture that's quick to cancel, that's quick to shut down, is a really courageous thing to do. And, because it is, like you say, I'm telling my friend that I'm feeling really anxious about this connection with this girl. I don't know if she likes me or not. Normally, like, the animal mind would be like, well, we're in competition for resource, and so I can't tell him where I'm weak because right. And that the outcome of that is that kind of like behavior. But I think it's an exciting time. I'm seeing more of this. At least maybe we're in a little bit of an echo chamber, but these kinds of conversations are important for that, because we're putting forth some stuff that I wouldn't normally say.
I've noticed my own discomfort through this conversation, in terms of like, I wonder how that will be perceived. I wonder how that will land. That fear of the cancel, right? I'm not exactly big enough to get cancelled, but people will try. People will try. And so, even though I feel like I'm sharing my truth and also talking this out in real time with you guys, there is always, and I think this is part of the problem with this as a topic, there's a fear, and that's what makes people hold back from sharing what they actually want to share, because people do have experiences of just getting shouted down and being like, this is why, this is why men are trash, this is this is that. And it's actually like, if we don't speak it, like, to exactly the point you're just making in a different context, how do we learn? How do you learn what you think? And also, how do we learn anything different if we're just going with binary and polarizing?
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the shadows I've noticed about masculinity. There's the domineering aspect, where it's just like, I'm shoving my truth down everybody's throat. Listen to what I have to say. I could care less if you don't agree with my opinion. And then there's the cowardice shadow, where it's just like, despite the fact that whatever was being said, whatever I'm seeing in the world goes against my values, goes against my principles, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not going to speak up against it. And I think that's such it's a loss of masculinity in our collective culture, because there's so many things that are wrong with the world that we rarely speak out against. I mean, even our political leaders, right? They're able to walk all over the collective as if we're a doormat. And there's not a collective uprise that says we're not tolerating that. But there's a cowardice that shows up as an archetype that possesses the collective and says, well, they know what's right. That's a system of authority. You have to listen to them. You have to obey them, despite the fact that you might not like what they're doing or how they're approaching it. They're still the government. They're still your political leader or whatever it is. They're still your pharmaceutical company, whatever it is. It goes down to everything, your teacher, your parent. The cowardice kind of shrinks in the face of truth that doesn't resonate with my own heart, but what my heart knows to be true, right? And that's where I think the warrior, where we channel the warrior. But I think so much times where we have these red pill prophets or whatever we see, they create more soldiers. And soldiers aren't warriors. They're obedient to someone else's view of the world, someone else's philosophy, even at the cost of their own heart, even at the cost of their own integrity. They're going to follow that. The warrior says, fuck all of that. I don't care if the tribe rejects me. I don't care if nobody approves of what I'm saying. This is in alignment with my heart's desire, my North Star, my values. And I'm going to see that till my dying breath.
Yeah,
and I think we need more of that in our culture.
For sure. To be self-led, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Rather than continuing to follow. Feels like a good place to close. Thank you so much,
Thank
man.
you.
It's been, a beautiful conversation, as I knew it would be.
Yeah, thank you both for having me, man. This is great.
Thank you.